We have a lot of exciting stuff for you today. We're going to start off with the Asia in Focus panel. We'll move into restaking, followed by a DVT panel, and then get into MEV and order flow. So let's get started with this panel. We have Ishani from IOSG, Joanna from JSquare, and James from DFG. If you guys would like to come join me up here. Hi, how are you guys doing?
Doing well, thank you.
Good, thanks. Same here.
That's great. So it's on. I think it just needs to, they're adjusting. Okay. Yeah. So to get us started, why don't you guys give a brief intro about who you are and the company you work for, just to give people sort of an idea of what we're discussing here today.
Sure. Hello everyone, this is James, founder and CEO of DFG. So I started a company back to 2015. So it's an investment firm focused on the crypto space for the past 8 years. So we grew from very small to $1 billion AUM, right now. So we've been investing pretty diversified into different ecosystems. So different layer one protocols, different equity deals. For example, we invest in a lot of great kind of equity deals, start from the very beginning to the next last ball market. For example, like CoinList, FV Bank, ChainSafe, Circle, and a few others. And also for layer one, we start investing to Polkadot, Solana, Near, and a few others during the last ball cycle. So right now we are looking for new, two things. One is solid infrastructure. So whether it's AR layer one or layer two, or the second thing we will invest is probably more applications which can bring massive adoption, which bring the real innovations for the industry.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. This is Joanna, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of JSquare. I co-founded with James about JSquare Group back to 2021, early 2021. And so far, we have invested over 60 projects in total. And since our company is pretty self-funded, so we don't have any outside LPs, and so the investment strategy is pretty flexible. And so recently, I'm pretty optimistic about the future, the mass adoption of the Asian countries and emerging areas. And yeah, this is the basic intro.
Yeah, I'm Ishani. I'm a principal at IOSG Ventures. The fund has been around since 2017, investing in what started off as layer ones, and then since then layer twos and early DeFi protocols, middleware, dev tools, security. And and then more recently NFT games and social related applications as well. So we try to invest in crypto native projects that are on chain, that makes sense to use blockchain as the key technologies. And that's kind of like the principal fund thesis, I think.
Great. Well, thank you all for being here. So I guess to kind of get started, I wanted to talk a little bit at a high level. Since all of your companies are based out of Asia, how have these markets evolved in the last 3 years? How is it different than people might see in other markets, relating to cryptocurrency? And, we can even get into a little bit about the future, but I'm curious to kind of get a little baseline comparisons for everybody before we dig into some deeper questions.
Sure. I think in good kind of early days when I entered the industry back to I bought Bitcoin back to 2013 and 2014. So at that time, it's pretty early stage. Asia actually dominated the market. So we have probably 90% of the hash rate in Asia, and also 90% of trading volume in Asia as well. But gradually, since crypto become much bigger, it's become more global. And Asia, start to kind of losing some market share on the trading side, and as well as at Bitcoin mining side.
So I have a question. So if you're saying it's losing market share, is it just losing the percentage, or is the actual trading volume, like the volume the same, but there's more people trading globally, so it's more spreading than it is decreasing?
Yeah, it is. It is simply because the market become bigger. Because previously, just imagine the start of the crypto market is basically U.S. and China, right? So it's very hard to say, other countries, you have a lot of people holding crypto or buying crypto, right? It's just simply because, there's a lot of countries being more supportive to crypto and more people in different countries buying crypto and holding crypto and building crypto projects. So it's become more kind of diversified. Which is actually a good thing for the industry. So I think during the last bull market, so Asia still have a lot of retail investors buying crypto and a lot of decent projects, especially in detail sector like GameFi and others. So I think Asia still have a very promising market. It's just very different than the market back to the early days in the crypto industry.
Thank you.
Yes, I would like to explain this from 3 perspectives. The first is the regulatory landscape. Throughout the last 3 years, I think the regulation part in Asia has changed a lot. We can see that countries like Japan and Singapore has taken very kind of like a favorable policy, or they're taking on something like forming their own crypto landscape for this industry. And some countries like China are taking some very harsh policies towards this. The second is the penetration part, because the size and population, Asia has the very large size and population base. So we can see there are a lot of mass adoption applications, like James has mentioned, some NFT or the gaming projects just evolved a lot through the last bull market. And so this is the second point that I would like to address. Yeah.
If the question is how are the markets kind of different or how they've evolved in Asia, I think we saw a lot of applications being adopted in Asia first, like Axie Infinity is the best example. Before they were adopted in more developed countries, also like the US or Europe. So we definitely see it's a different kind of retail demographic as well. And different applications are attracting different kind of demographics. Accordingly, Asia in the past market cycle was the one that kind of led the way for the play to earn kind of models as well. But we think moving forward, we can see some of the, especially on the social side, we can see the Western and the Eastern markets kind of coming together and using similar products and kind of building more global audiences as well on one application itself.
Thank you. So, Joanna, you had mentioned about the regulatory landscape, and I guess I'd be curious to explore that a little bit more, where we see certain countries taking more of an aggressive stance and other countries are opening up to it. I'm curious if with J-Square, does that change your investment thesis, or does that change, do you kind of make decisions based off the location of these projects? Or how does that come into play with what you do, or is it not necessarily a factor directly?
Yeah, so actually, this is a very good question. Actually, one of the biggest theses that we employ in terms of investment, decision making in J-Square, is the geographic or demographic investment. And so I'm pretty, as I mentioned from the very beginning, I'm pretty optimistic about the future of the Asian market growth for the mass adoption level in crypto industry. And so J-Square has focused a lot on some countries like Korea, like Japan, including China, where we keep a close eye to the policy changes and the moving of the people stream, and also the South Asia applications evolvement as well. Yeah, so this is So this is basically one of the very important strategy for J Square being making some investments.
I'm curious if IOSG and DFG have a similar sort of viewpoint, or if there's a difference in how you approach based off of geographical, if you're looking at what's based off of regulation, or just a good investment regardless of where it's located.
So I think if you're investing in very crypto-native products that are like maybe decentralized as well, it becomes a little bit less of a factor. So for investors, I would say largely unaffected actually. But what we do see is the trends in how founders take up new projects. So maybe like seeing a new DeFi protocol, staking protocol in the US may now not be something founders are willing to take upon because of the regulatory markets. So I think it affects founders more than it affects investors. The situation where we would actually consider very solid regulatory frameworks in part of our investment decision frameworks would be if we're investing in things like centralized exchanges or prime brokerages, OTC desks, that kind of infrastructure, trading infrastructure where you require licenses in the first place and custody as well. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I think from our perspective, it does matter. So, you can easily say that you invest into a global business where crypto is, there's no country about crypto. But in fact, it does matter. Just giving one example, there's one, I think portfolios, called Asta. The founder is a Japanese, and because of the tax reasons, he have to move to Singapore to establish foundations and help people globally. But right now, since Japan take a much more positive policy toward crypto industry, so he can go back and talk to all the government guys and getting investment from Sony, from Toyota, from all these kind of big enterprises in Japan, and getting supporting from them and started more like incubation, building the ecosystem. It actually matters from a geographic perspective because once the certain country is more friendly toward crypto, they will give you a lot of support from the funding side, from the resources side. So I think this is actually a important fact for like us to consider when we make the investment. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you guys. So I wanted to kind of take things a little bit differently here. So there's this trend towards restaking. It's becoming a hot topic. We have products like EigenLayer and Blockswap Cloud are coming to market. And I'm curious if you see any sort of developments that might come out of it in the way of DeFi or NFTs, or is it more on the infrastructure side? And is that something you're anticipating for and you're looking for in projects, or how that, if it has any sort of effect on what you're doing, or is it just exciting to have the idea that there could be a bunch of projects iterated much more quickly when they can be plugged into consensus layer security?
Yeah, I think I will take it like more broadly because I think you know better than me about the details because you guys are building that. I guess on a broader perspective, this is make a lot of sense because just imagine right now Ethereum staking percentage is 20%. I mean the number keep goes up. Usually for a layer 1 protocol, the staking percentage is probably like 50. Or Solana have probably somewhere like 70 or something crazy number in the bull market. So I think there's actually more staked native layer 1 token than unstaked layer 1 token, right? So actually that is a much bigger market than the native token. So I think if you can unleash the potential of these kind of tokens, make it more useful, this is huge and it's super important for the industry to grow. Otherwise, you are basically locking all the liquidity there. Because just imagine if you're holding a token in the long term, you have to stake, right? Otherwise, you are kind of being diluted, right? So it doesn't make any sense. But if you're going to stake, you lock your token, then you lack of liquidity. So it's actually you enter into a dilemma there, right? If you can unleash this kind of token and give them the authority to use kind of DeFi, whatever that is, that's super powerful and important for the next growth of the crypto market, I would say.
Yeah, and just to echo his kind of opinion, I think I agree, and I think the first set of applications where we see folks like Eigenlayer, like such as yourself, your infrastructure being used would be in the middleware stack. So you have like the oracles, your data infrastructure, bridges, all of those things. I think we'll see that and evolve first before we see extremely solid like use cases in the application stack, maybe. So I think maybe a few years out before it gets to the application level.
That makes sense. So start off infrastructure and then
Middleware.
infrastructure, middleware infrastructure, and then you'll finally maybe see it come out to the DeFi and NFT side.
Yeah, and maybe users won't even know about like that they're using all of this kind of backend.
Yeah, we see that more and more, right? Things get simplified so users don't even know what's going on the back end. It's becoming a usable product.
Exactly.
Joanna, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, just to sum up a little bit, I think this is the beauty of POS. And as from our perspective, as we are investors for a lot of like POS layer 1 protocols and also middle layer solutions, I think I'm pretty much like looking forward to this. But what I want to emphasize more is I think it can also be extended to the NFT part for the restaking. Maybe in the future there will be some solutions for this as well.
Great, thank you guys. So clearly there's a lot going on in crypto. It goes off in so many different directions. There's, like we were talking about, the NFTs, there's the DeFi, there's the infrastructure, and it can go much further than that, and as it becomes ossified and simplified, can go in a lot of different places. I'm curious what gets you excited. Are there particular things you're looking for, or you see different types of projects? Maybe there's something specific that comes out where you're like, this is something I'm really interested in, or a type of direction that you particularly follow that you want to become sort of more of an expert in than others. Like, what gets you up in the morning? What gets you excited about the current market? Yeah, go ahead, James.
Yeah, I think anything can do massive adoption is really the things we're looking for. Because previously, of course, everyone knows about Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin does pretty well, and there's a lot of kind of new application in the last bull run. For example, the sector of GameFi or NFT really help a lot of people outside the crypto industry come to the crypto industry. This is really helpful to the growth of the industry, right? So this is actually something we are looking for the next bull run. So it doesn't necessarily to be the same idea or narrative. It could be different, but anything could be really innovative. Could bring people outside the industry into the crypto industry is something we are looking for. I don't want to predict anything, but kind of something like SocialFi, or maybe AI technology or whatever. So that could be the next wave of crypto in the next bull run, maybe.
So it sounds like, if I'm understanding right, feel free to correct me, is what you particularly look for is something that brings on new user bases. You're thinking that people who are already in the market will participate in the same types of protocols, whether they change a little bit or there's a better version, but you're looking for something that brings new people into the fold, increases the total market size, rather than carving out a piece of the current market.
Yeah, absolutely, that's true. That's what we are looking for. I think right now still there's a lot of room to grow, so maybe less than 4% of the world population owns Bitcoin. So it could easily get 10x, 40% is not a crazy number, because internet, just imagine, is more than 50%, right? So I think that's one way to do adoption. But if you only count on Bitcoin doing that, that's not going to be enough. You need people to really use these kind of DApps, right? So either, there's two things which matters. The first is, the infrastructure. You solve the problem of infrastructure, like the layer 1, layer 2, solve the scalability issues or whatever. So that is one important thing, is about infrastructure. But people already talk a lot about it, and people are really invest a lot about it. So that's the things that which matters. But one thing I think people kind of not talking so much these days about new applications. Really simple, because there's because in a bear market, a lot of applications lose the users. There are not a lot of real users. But really, if we want to, have the next bull run and push the crypto market to another new high, then we have to have more people come into the space, right? So this is actually our job, to supporting the good founders, building new applications, and bring people on board. So this is what we are looking for.
Joanna, do you see the same point of view? Are you looking for things that expand market share rather than carve out a piece, or what's your take on this? How do you look at what's coming next?
Yeah, I actually agree with what James has mentioned. In terms of mass adoption, I think Asia really has the best opportunity for this. This like coincides with our investment strategy, which is regional opportunities, because Asian people has the largest phone penetration rate, a large population base, and also they've got tech savvy sort of stack of people and who are like very good technical person or something like this. Yeah, so this is really something that I'm pretty looking forward to. And besides that, he also mentioned AI technology, and this is something that I've been looking at for throughout the past few months, because we've been starting doing such investments last year, and right now we can see that not only the Web3 industry but also the Web2 industry has created like huge heat and hot topics over the AI technology, and I'm pretty looking forward to the potential combination of AI with Web3 technology. The potential approaches should be, the first is the big language model training, and the second might be the inference part. And so I'm pretty optimistic about such kind of projects.
That's super interesting. So it kind of sounds like you're kind of looking at, there's this Web3 side, and then there's this AI side as well that you're investing in. It's not just purely Web3. You're a little bit more on the tech space. So do you see a potential blend between crypto and these AI models? I know the AI industry is so young yet that it might be hard to articulate exactly what that is. But if you're coming across and you're seeing a lot of these new projects, is that coming up? And you also mentioned, sorry, throwing a lot of questions, but I guess you had a lot of interesting points there. I'm also curious about how you're talking about particular types of Asian markets, they're being tech savvy. Maybe you could give a little bit more viewpoint on how it develops, and if there's maybe like subgroups, like specific groups that are satisfied, where we see a lot of crypto now going for the mass large market, if there's smaller sorts of projects and what that looks like in there. Sorry, I asked a lot of questions. If you could expand a little bit, that'd be very helpful.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to address a little bit about these problems. And in terms of the AI part, I think basically the combination that I can see currently for the AI and Web3 is still. So in terms of the training or large GPU needed technologies, we still cannot rely on pure Web3 technology, right? But in terms of the token economy or more community-based part, I think this can be adopted a little bit. So I will be more optimistic about the inference, the AI inference kind of projects being surging for the next bull market. It will be more easily taking place. And for the second question, you mentioned about the tech-savvy community in Asia, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So I think the biggest advantage for Asian techs are they are very fast learners in every areas, in every kind of application. So firstly they will get on very quickly when there is a new model emerging, and they can copy paste and come up with more kind of new models or new innovations. But
quick iteration.
Yeah, quick iteration. And I think this is of course the biggest advantage for Asian people.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for expanding on that. It sounds like it's a very fast-growing sort of place. Ishani, what gets you excited about Web3 and what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with, I think, a lot of what Joanna mentioned, which is the kind of the ZKML kind of AI space, but that's still very early at the moment. The thing that I've been very excited about recently has been, it's a niche, very experimental, but like the fully on-chain gaming space, and like game engines, and it's just, if you're technical, like if you're a little bit, like you like getting into the details of stuff, would highly recommend checking those kind of folks out, because they're quite at the leading edge of, cutting edge of what can you do on an application side that is completely on-chain without kind of losing the integrity of what crypto at large was meant to be. And it's also very interesting, like we're seeing playable games, etc. as well. But that's only on the fully on-chain game side. And then besides that, I think even the wallet space, it's been kind of getting commoditized quite quickly. That being said, I think there's still like a large design space for potentially users and applications and developers to build into and grow into. So that would be pretty exciting. And then the third thing would be, I'd say like a lot of the new like things that are the EIPs that are coming out of like in the NFT space. So like 6559 was one of the more recent ones, but then there's some other new standards being developed as well, which is also quite interesting. Just allowing developers to do more with the existing NFTs.
So I guess I'm curious a little bit about this completely on-chain gaming space. I guess what does that look like for people? Is it kind of this play to earn, or is it more pay to play, or is it just completely neutralized? It's just gaming on-chain.
Yeah.
What does it look like? Help me see the future here.
I don't know if anyone here is familiar with EVE Online.
I'm not, but
so basically the idea is just like autonomous worlds, right? But it's a completely new paradigm, I think, or a primitive, which is extremely crypto native, I think, because a lot of the things you can program into a fully on-chain game, you actually can't do that in a hybrid Web 2.5 type of a game either. So most of our games today that are playable on-chain, actually only the NFT is on-chain, but the logic of the game itself is on some AWS server. So you're basically putting the compute on blockchain as well. And what you and I can potentially do, I don't know if you're a developer, but if you are, yeah, I'm not one either. But if you're a developer, it's more interesting. I can actually come in and create a building basically on someone else's game, and that building can have potential like attack powers or whatever it is. Yeah, so I think it just opens up a whole new design space that's crypto native.
Great, thank you. Well, I would like to thank Ishani, Joanna, James for joining us. We're out of time here, but this was very, very enlightening. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you,
a lot.
everyone.
Thanks, Derek.